The next thing we're going to do is drop this assembly kind of one piece at a time. We've got two clutch plates, one on each end, and then the drive discs, and then the clutch discs right there. We'll drop them into place. So we start off with a clutch plate, and from what I can see, there's no special orientation on this. It can go on there any which way you want. The next thing we'll have is a drive disc that goes in place there, and these things will kind of go all over the place, at least right now, so just kind of get them in their approximate location. The next thing you have is a clutch disc, and if you'll notice, these aren't equidistant. You've got 1, 2, 3 notches, 1, 2, 3 notches, and 2 notches. So these two holes are a little bit closer together than that and that, if that makes sense. And what you want to do is align those big holes up with some oil holes on the spline shaft. Now you can't see the other side, but there's an oil hole here that's about midway up the shaft. And there's an oil hole here that's about midway up the shaft. There's one back here that's high on the shaft. And the one that's high on the shaft, you want to line up with that right there. When you're doing this, this will make a whole lot more sense to you than with me explaining it to you. But the idea is to have the oil pump in the clutch, in the PTO clutch. It's actually not in the PTO clutch, it's in the PTO housing. There's an oil pump in there that's going to pump oil through those holes, and it gets into this cavity where the little springs are and kind of forces oil to go between all these individual clutch discs. And so make sure you get these oriented on there correctly. From there, it's just kind of dropping piece after piece. And my particular Model 60, I believe, has 6 of these clutch discs. Although I'm not so sure that maybe when these things get worn, perhaps mechanics in the past, to compensate for that, might have added an extra clutch disc and drive disc into the arrangement to maybe to lessen the cost of rebuilding one of these things. I'm not sure on that. So we'll find out as we get closer to the end on this. So anyway, I'll turn the camera off and kind of finish that arrangement of just stacking parts. When you've got all your clutch discs and your drive discs in place, right before you drop the end clutch plate in place, find your 3 small springs, and they drop into those positions right there, like that. So get your 3 springs in there, and the purpose of those is when you disengage the clutch, that kind of forces this arrangement to come apart and lets oil get in there. So you put your 3 3 small springs in place, and then you've got a washer that goes on top of that, and your snap ring. Yeah, see if I can get my snap ring pliers here. It's always interesting to see whether you can get one of these on without saying a few nasty words somewhere along the way. There. Okay. So that assembles together, and you can see things move around in there a lot right now, and you've got to have that all in alignment before you put this back in the tractor, or you never will. And also, a good time to mention it is you got a thrust washer right there. I'm not going to put that into place. I'm going to set it aside because it'd be easy to lose that. But don't, when you put it together in the tractor, maybe put a little grease on the back of this, kind of squish it into place so that it'll stay on there while you're trying to fight this into the tractor, which is not an easy thing to do. Well, the next thing we're going to try to do is actually engage the PTO clutch. Before we do that though, you can see all these drive discs, they're loose, they'll move all over the place. They're actually held in place by a part that's still in the tractor. The name of that part is, see if we can find it here. It's part P right there. And P is the drum with the shaft. And that's actually coming out of the back end of the tractor. And it's still in the tractor. Ideally, you'd have that part out of the tractor or have a spare one, and you could use that to line all this stuff up. But the book also says you can just use a straight edge. So you got hard points there, the top and the bottom, clutch plate, and then you've got all the clutch discs that are in between that are hard points. So you can take and line those things up just by using this. And kind of check on all three 1/3 of the way around each time. Keep working with it a little bit. And the nice thing about this is you can kind of finish the alignment up after the clutch is engaged if you have to. So we've got it pretty well lined up. One thing I guess I've had a problem with in my life is overthinking things sometimes. To snap this, and these crowbars are way too big, but to snap the collar upward, you can just hook it into the same place that your little shoe fits, right in there. And put one on that side and one on this side and come up with it.